When you think of skateboarding, you probably picture something like this. A culture with a rich history, a diverse range of styles, and at its spearhead, athletes that seem to defy the laws of physics. Step into a skate shop and you're surrounded by numerous brands. You can pick a deck from your favorite deck brand, trucks from your favorite truck company, and the same goes for wheels, bearings, grip tape. But now imagine a world with only one skateboard manufacturer controlling all the trademarks and patents on everything needed to build a skateboard. And this company only sells complete boards. Broken bearing? You have to send in your entire board. They would exchange the bearing and charge you for that service. Oh, you live in Europe? Sorry bro, but you have to send your board back to California, to their only workshop. And with no competition in the skateboarding industry, what would a skateboard look like? Do you think it would have evolved into this? Nah. A skateboard would still look like this, or this, or maybe even like this. And of course some pioneers would fight the status quo with their DIY accessories to bring this sport to another level. But everyone making a business out of it would be sued by the one and only skateboard company. This all sounds ridiculous, right? But what if I told you it is a true story? It didn't happen in skateboarding, but there's another growing board sport facing this weird situation. And this is the sport of onewheeling. But can we even call it onewheeling? Onewheel is a trademark of Future Motion Inc. This is the company that owns all the trademarks and patents. And this is the CEO of Future Motion, Kyle Dox. Wait, that sounded wrong. Let me look that up.
Dorkson.
I don't know. He can't sue me for that, right? I'm sorry. But now back to the story. So did Kyle invent the onewheel? Hell no! The first sideways riding self-balancing device was seen in this YouTube video by Ben Smither, and it already looked very similar to nowadays onewheels. So what did Kyle and Future Motion do? Well, they made it a mass product, which of course is a huge achievement, but they are not the inventors. And still, they are the one and only company who can legally sell those kind of self-balancing devices. Therefore, most people simply call this sport onewheeling.
Onewheeling.
But there's a large DIY community, and some even build their boards without using any Future Motion parts at all. And some are also looking for a more universal name.
If we change the name of onewheeling collectively as a community, what would we call it? E-boarding, fluxboarding,
Floating? It can't just be one wheel.
VESCing.
What's a VESC? VESC stands for Vedder Electronic Speed Controller, named after the creator Benjamin Vedder. VESC is an open source platform for electronic speed controllers, originally built for electric skateboards. But at some point people started to use VESCs to replace the original controllers in their onewheels. Partially because their boards were broken and it's cheaper than having Future Motion fix that, and partially because they wanted more customization options, more DIY, less dependence on Future Motion. The first VESC'd onewheels were not riding as smooth as Future Motion onewheels.
Yeah, it's the brakes are too fucked.
But thanks to some smart people contributing to the project, now most riders would agree that riding a VESC is superior to riding a stock onewheel.
VESC has come a long way in the last couple of months.
And speaking of stock onewheels, when onewheels came out, Future Motion had not in mind to do slides or other skateboarding-inspired tricks on them. So third parties came into play, selling accessories that make onewheels more durable, more shreddable, more like a skateboard or a mountain bike, and not just like a fancy commuting device. The most prominent third-party brand is the Floatwheel.
We have a whole company where we upgrade and accessorize Onewheels so that we can shred them super hard.
But TFL does not only sell one-wheel accessories. They are like the ambassadors for the sport of one-wheeling. Without TFL's YouTube channel, I don't think Onewheels would have ever caught my attention.
Guys at the Float Life, these are the people that I think about when I think about one-wheeling, not Future Motion.
So Future Motion should be thankful for the symbiosis with TFL, right? No, they are not. They put as much spokes in their wheel as they can. If you are a Future Motion reseller, you are not allowed to sell the Float Life products. Imagine the same situation in skateboarding. You'd have to buy a skateboard at, let's say, Walmart and then go to a real skate shop for better wheels. Because the skate shop wouldn't be allowed to sell you a deck. And that's just one example of many more where Future Motion works against third parties, against the one-wheeling sport as a whole, and even directly against the customers, to the point where it has piqued the interest of Louis Rossmann.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely afternoon. So today I would like to go over Future Motion, which makes the one-wheel electric skateboard. The TLDR, and what I've gone over in many of my old videos, this is a company that goes out of their way to make it difficult to be able to service items like the battery on your device. If somebody else makes it simpler to service the battery on your device, they'll get sued by this company, which Leonard French has gone over in great detail with some great content. TLDR, they want to make repairs as difficult as possible, in my opinion, and they are also of the opinion that the repairs should only be done by then, for safety reasons and everything else, and all the other bullshit you usually hear on this channel when we talk about manufacturers that go out of their way to make repairing their products difficult.
So why is Future Motion acting like this? Why do they put so much energy into fighting competitors and third parties, even if this makes the user experience of their own products worse? Why don't they accept other players and let the sport grow? Sure, with competitors, Future Motion might have a smaller slice of the cake, but the cake itself would get much bigger. So their slice in absolute terms would likely be larger than what they have now. And instead of working against their customers and suing competitors, they could focus on being the best brand out there to keep their share as large as possible. But for some reason they want to keep the whole cake for themselves. Is this a smart business move? Let's look at the history of snowboarding, because snowboarding has been in a very similar situation. Roughly 300 years ago, people in Turkey were already snowboarding. Kind of. In the 60s in the US, a similar type of early snowboard was sold under the name Snurfer. Then Jake Burton Carpenter, yes, that Burton, took the idea and began developing the modern snowboard. But he wasn't the only player in the game. Burton was competing with Tom Sims, who had a skateboarding background and was also building and selling snowboards.
Jake earnestly believed that Tom stole his idea.
At some point, Burton took the opportunity to secure the snowboard patent rights by purchasing the early snowboard patents from the 60s.
This was an opportunity to fuck Sims.
Jake wanted other companies to pay royalties to Burton snowboards.
It threw a whole panic into a lot of small companies who were just struggling to get by, struggling to grow. The industry rebelled against it.
And just like with Future Motion, riders began to resent and boycott Burton snowboards.
Biggest PR fuck up of my life.
Eventually, Burton changed course and stopped enforcing the patent.
And I never looked at it again.
At the end of the day, Jake said Burton was a better company because Tom was a great competitor.
And when we look at where snowboarding and Burton snowboards are now, it's clear that this was the right decision. I just wish Kyle had the same insight as Jake. I'm sure it would be good for Future Motion as well as for the whole sport of one-wheeling, or whatever we want to call it.
Snowboarding isn't called Burtoning.
Or do you know any major board sport, or sport in general, that is owned by one company? Do you think such a sport can grow? Would snowboarding be where it is today if Burton had become a monopoly? Do you think we would see it in the X Games and the Olympics? Do we see snakeboards in the X Games? No, they had the moment, but they didn't evolve. It was this weird one-brand board sport, so most people didn't even see it as a sport, but more as a gadget. Will Onewheels also be doomed to remain nothing more than a gadget? Is this the end of the story? Kyle doing everything to stay the one and only king of that niche one-wheeling market, while other brands trying to grow it as a sport, as a culture, struggle against Future Motion's shenanigans. And is VESC bound to be DIY only? No. There is this small company from China by the name of Floatwheel, run by Tony and John, and they are fighting against the Future Motion monopoly.
In the year 2020, we have launched the very first VESC-based Floatwheel kit. 3 days later, Future Motion sued us for patent infringement. They will file for a seizing of our PayPal account. We spent almost 9 months and took up a loan to develop this kit, and now we cannot sell it.
But Floatwheel did not stop.
We switched to crypto payments and we quickly sold all the kits across the globe.
In December 2022, Tony announced their new flagship products, the ADV series. As soon as I heard that, I pre-ordered the Founders Edition. That was in January 23. Then the waiting began. Finally in May, I got the mail that my board is ready to be shipped and I could do the final payment. But it took almost another 3 months for the shipping from China. The ADV Pro came in 2 parts, the motor and the board. And I had to do the hand job, it's not hand, it's, I mean I had to assemble it. But it's not DIY as some people say. It's more like building a complicated IKEA shelf. You just need to follow the instructions. And here I am, one of the bold and brave founders, one of the first 200 with an ADV under their feet. And the long wait was totally worth it. How much fun it is to ride this thing. I never owned the Future Motion Onewheel for comparison, but as far as I know, most people who own the Future Motion flagship, the Onewheel GT and the Floatwheel ADV, agree that the ADV is by far the better board. Meanwhile, Future Motion released the GTS series in response to Floatwheel and the developments in the VESC community. However, it seems the ADV still outperforms the GTS. And that's not even what matters. The real game changer is not that they built a better board than Future Motion. The game changer is that there's now a VESC board that comes fully equipped and you don't have to build it from DIY parts or from an existing Future Motion Onewheel.
This board, to me, means change in the wind.
The ADV is not only a better and much cheaper alternative to the GTS. It's more than that. It's an important step into freeing the sport from Future Motion's control. And unlike Onewheel, Floatwheel actually supports the right to repair.
It is designed to be user serviceable, and all the parts will be widely available to you. There is 0 anti-repair measures of any kind to screw with the riders.
Did I mention that Future Motion was trying to prevent their customers from unplugging the battery on their own?
If you unplug the battery, you get a corrupted memory error.
If you try to have the battery unplugged or serviced by anybody other than their one existing service center.
And that's just one of many stories describing how anti-consumer Future Motion is. Tony so far is the exact opposite. He's taking care of his customers and he's listening to them. He admits failures, acknowledges mistakes, and communicates how he's going to fix them. So will this make Future Motion wake up? Learn from their mistakes, learn from Floatwheel and try to be as good as them or even better? No, of course not. Future Motion is being Future Motion.
This here is what looks to be a demand for a jury trial from Future Motion against the defendant Tony Lai, who is an individual doing business as Floatwheel.
So again, Future Motion is suing Floatwheel. This time, they even managed to take down the official Floatwheel website with a restraining order. Floatwheel had to move to a different URL that is beyond Future Motion's reach and rebuild the shop without using Shopify. If you wonder why you can't see Floatwheel's old videos on YouTube anymore, it's also due to Future Motion's restraining order. Now US citizens have to use a VPN to access their videos. That sucks. It's a lose for Floatwheel, but that doesn't mean it's a win for Future Motion.
It's not a zero-sum game.
Riders do not like what Future Motion is doing, and more people boycott Future Motion because of it. I saw a lot of comments all over the internet of people saying they will buy a Floatwheel just because of how Future Motion behaves. And in the Floatwheel Discord people were like, okay, I will buy a second Floatwheel now to support Tony. And the Onewheel Discord was renamed to Floatwheel. It's clearly not a win for Future Motion. It's more of a lose-lose-lose situation. It's a lose for Floatwheel, a lose for Future Motion, and a giant lose for the riders and the sport in general. How can Future Motion see this? Don't they realize their actions are causing a backlash? Can't they see all the negative comments directed at them? And the customers who are turning away? What about the videos made in response to this? There's a video from Louis Rossman. And a really good one from Jeff at the Float Life, where he even makes the Burton snowboards comparison. Future Motion, do you really think this is a good outcome for you? Okay, as we are talking about Future Motion, TFL and Floatwheel, there's another story I have to tell. That's the story of Bodhi Harrison.
So starting with Bodhi Harrison on the far left.
There's Bodhi in the pink, Bodhi in the shades, getting his zen, getting the breath right.
Bodhi is more known for his amazing tricks on the Float Life's YouTube channel. But he's also competing at races.
And here we go. No!
Neil bent it down.
No, bend it down.
Kyle Hansen on the up and over.
Clean.
Oh
my
Rick
God!
Austin off his board.
This is Future Motion's race for the rail. The 2022 men's final. Despite being more of a trick rider, Bodhi got second place. In 2023, Bodhi couldn't compete. He was still recovering from a broken collarbone. So Future Motion invited him to be a commentator instead. But then, they changed their mind.
For those of you that were excited to see me be the sideline commentator at the women's race for the rail, like that was supposed to happen, that's been canceled because we made a video about Floatwheel, and now I'm not able to be on Onewheel's broadcast.
In the past years, TFL has made dozens of videos about Future Motion's Onewheels. It's free advertising. But now, after they made one video about Floatwheel, Future Motion cancelled Bodhi's invitation. This is not just evil, it's also not very smart, cause a lot of people saw Bodhi's Insta story. Such foolish attempts to fight their competitors and their supposed competitors are just doing the opposite for them. It not only causes the people to resent Future Motion, it also doesn't stop Floatwheel or the Float Life. TFL just made another video about the Floatwheel, where Bodhi made this banger shove it down a drop.
I wasn't really taking VESC very seriously for a while, and then I saw a video of Floaty do a shove off a drop. And he's talking about how the VESCs do shoves really well, and I was like, alright.
Let's go. Let's fucking go. What?
I thought that's the end of the story. Future Motion acting more and more irrationally and driving more and more people towards Floatwheel and DIY VESCs. But this time Future Motion recognized that this won't work out for them. They couldn't simply cancel Bodhi. But maybe they could buy him.
I will be joining Future Motion as a full-time professional one-wheel rider. With this new opportunity, I'll be leaving my position at the Float Life.
What?
Isn't this weird? Future Motion has been around for 10 years, and they never felt the urge to have a team of riders. Maybe just a team of lawyers, I guess. But now, as they see the rise of Floatwheel, and TfL making videos about it, Future Motion suddenly decided to create a riders team and to pull Bodhi over to their side. Rumor has it that Julian De La Rua, COO of Future Motion, attempted to buy the Floatlife, but Jeff purportedly declined, so Future Motion had to pursue a more aggressive strategy. Some claim that Future Motion stole, has taken inspiration from TfL product designs, and that the failed attempt to acquire TfL was the real reason they poached Bodhi. But it's not just Bodhi. All the newly recruited members of the factory team previously wrote for TfL and helped them with their product development. If Future Motion simply wanted the team to promote their products, they could have done that years ago. To me, it seems the main purpose of the factory team is not to promote the Onewheel, but it's again a spoke in the wheel of those who dare to take a piece of their cake. And don't get me wrong, I'm still a fan of Bodhi. I hope he remains the same nice guy he was while riding for TfL, and that Future Motion won't ruin him. Instead, I hope he can improve Future Motion from the inside. I'm sure Bodhi would also prefer constructive competition within the one-wheeling industry.
I want to see an open market as much as the next guy.
Just his new bosses are more like,
there can be only one.
But imagine a world with numerous brands. Imagine something like this, but for one-wheels.
Onewheels, Floatwheels, VESC, whatever you want to call them. We still got to come up with a name for these things, man.
Imagine you could choose to buy a complete board from different brands, or you could pick parts and build your board as you like it, or let the shop build it for you. Just imagine how this would change the sport. Think of how skateboarding or snowboarding evolved, and just imagine where Onewheels could be without Future Motion's monopoly. How would the Onewheel look like in such a future? Just imagine Onewheels in the f***ing X Games. This all sounds crazy, right? But what if I told you this could be a true story? It's happened with other board sports, so why not Onewheeling? We can get there, and the Floatwheel ADV is an important step in this direction. Now let's see what the future brings. Let's see the real future of motion. There's so much more to say, so much I left out in the video. JW batteries, Fungineers, Rewheel, Trotter, and much more. But this is just the beginning of my Floatwheel adventure, and the Floatwheel adventure in general. Did I mention that ADV stands for adventure? Yeah, this truly is an adventure machine. And I'm sure this won't be my last video with or about the Floatwheel. So subscribe, ring the bell, hit the like button for the culture, drop a comment and...
what is it? Rock on, my guys?